Teachers of Reddit, what is the biggest holy crap red flag of any kind you've seen from a student? NSW. When I taught ESL in Korea, I had a student who was a rage addict. He was about 11 years old and this kid was grumpy like an old man. He would hunch his shoulders and put his hair down like some grumpy old codger. Usually about once a month, he would lose his crap over something, and it was a volcano that would erupt for 20 solid minutes. He would totally lose his crap, attack anybody who got near him, and would have no respect at all for adults. I watched an older grandfather, somebody you totally respect in that culture, try to talk to him and the kid wouldn't back down, and in fact got even more angry until the grandfather lost it with him. The kid had serious anger issues. I would see the emotions rise in him over the course of the month break between fits and I could tell when it was about time for him to fly into a rage and explode. Another kid I taught came from a poorer family where the husband and wife constantly fought. His father was an alcoholic and his mother was a snide, angry woman who ran a small produce stand in the neighborhood market. The kid was purposefully belligerent towards authority in such a way you just never see in Korea. Every adult I knew would just scratch their heads because they never understood him or how to reach him. I tried everything I knew how to do in order to get through to him, somehow bond with him so I could teach him, or at least keep him from disrupting the entire class. Even the other kids got tired of his crap, but I knew it wasn't his fault and I felt bad for him. So I did what I could to show him kindness because I don't think he ever got much of that at home. I teach in an area that has been very affected by the opioid epidemic. I taught a student who was well known to be addicted to H. He was also the person who gave his mother her first dose of the drug. His mother died of an overdose. The last time I saw him he had self-tattooed on his arm "I killed my mom" in huge letters. During my 20 years in the same school, it was just getting worse and worse. Citywide, administrators were shifting accountability onto the teachers in order to preserve their own careers. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. After this I knew that teaching, or trying to be a teacher in NYC schools, was no longer worth the struggle for me. While I was supervising a class, not mine, during pack-up, clean-up at the end of the day, I caught two 7-year-old boys on the floor hiding behind some furniture. One was giving a BJ to the other boy. Shocked and disturbed, I reported it to my principal and was simply told to call the parents. Incredulous, I asked what I should say. How should I handle this? Why me? Am I to do this alone? I was directed to be vague about it, and if I wasn't vague and an investigation resulted, then I would be thrown under the bus because it must have only happened on my watch. Of course, the two boys were notoriously strange troublemakers for everyone, but nothing prior to this went on record. No one could make the case that the principal had neglected to protect other children from these boys. When one of these boys picked at the gums in his mouth with his fingernails until his mouth was filled with blood and his smile scared the other kids, and his hands were covered in drying blood, he was sent to the nurse to wash his hands and rinse his mouth. The nurse sent him back to class with a note. The parents were told, but acted like it's just another day. Student skipped the week or two that he had pool time at pay. Counseled his parents at conferences he was exhibiting some gang tendencies. Oddly, so were the parents. Found out later that year he skipped pool pay class because he had his last name tattooed across his back in Old English. This was a 14-year-old. I had a student last week tell me to hold out my hand because he had a surprise for me. I did it out of curiosity and he placed a 9mm round in my hand. This is 2 months after I had a student tell everyone via Snapchat he was gonna shoot me and another teacher up. I just shook my head and called administration to deal with that BS. I had a student earlier this year who came to me because he was kicked out of his last school. According to him, he was covered in tattoos as a freshman in high school. On the second day of having him in my class, I looked up from my desk while students were supposed to be taking a test to see him miming cutting off my head with something shiny. When I went back to see what it was and he laughed and hid it, swearing he had nothing. I looked up to see him doing it again. Same thing happened. I let it go. After he left the room, I found the pen he had been writing with under his desk with 2 small incisions in the cap. I immediately reported it to admin. He was moved to another teacher a few days later for an unrelated scheduling issue. He threatened to kill her. He was moved to another teacher because of this. In the 3rd teacher's class, he drew pictures of rifles all over his essays. So many red flags. He was finally sent to the alternative school a few months back, but he'll likely be back. This year I had a female student, middle school, who had cut her arm so many times you couldn't really see the skin. Just a bunch of bloody, scabby cuts. She hid it well at school as it was winter and the students were all wearing sweaters. We only found out because one of her friends started crying and told me I needed to talk to her immediately. My friend runs a swim club for kids. She once got a complaint from some mothers that one 8-year-old boy was performing fellatio on some 6-year-old boys in the changing room. The kid wasn't allowed to come back, and it turns out that his grandfather groped him. That's where he learned the whole thing. It happened a few years ago, when I was an intern at a big school in my town. My job was simple: follow the teacher wherever she went to and complete 100 of unpaid work. That's it. Crappy, but I had to do that in order to get my diploma. So, there was this boy, around 14, who was always alongside his personal therapist. I don't usually ask questions, but since that same teacher was my high school teacher years ago, I felt comfortable in asking her what was wrong with him. She said he had autism, and sometimes he would get aggressive towards his classmates, so his therapist had to be with him at all times while he was at school to help calm him down if something or someone triggers him. Days later I went to the teacher's room to ask for signatures for my internship documents. Everyone is helpful and starts signing until the coordinator walks in and asks for our attention. Guys, I have some news to tell you all about. Boy, you'd better sit down. You too. Spirit song. You gotta listen to this, she said. Turns out the fricking kid had been pretending to be autistic for years. He looked up on the internet for the symptoms of autism and just started using his acting skills to fool even a psychologist and his whole family. His therapist had empty eyes. His mother looked like her son died in front of her. I don't know the details, but it seems a different psychologist did something to him and caught him off guard, discovering his ruse. Had them producing a book report with a few sentences and some pictures. Kid had an abridged version of some Penguin classic, and everything was good barring one question. What did you enjoy most about this story? He gets mad and kills his family, followed by a scrolling image of mutilation. Completely unrelated to the story and just slipped in there with some good work. When I first began teaching, we had a student who seemed to get a lot of satisfaction out of manipulating or hurting others. Her behavior escalated, leading to a brief hospital stint after killing her puppy. When she returned to school, she bragged gleefully about it and shortly thereafter began writing death threats in blood on the walls of bathroom stalls. As much as I hate to say it, she's one I wouldn't be surprised to see in the news in a few years. A university freshman tried to add my class late, but all the slots allotted by admin had been filled. He approached me after the first day of class and asked to be added anyway. Very flat affect, no emotion at all. I told him that I couldn't add him, and he replied, "If you don't add me, I'll follow you everywhere, even to the bathroom." I'm not a huge guy, but I easily doubled his body weight. Not the situation to try to make a threat, I'd say. I was nonplussed for a moment, so I asked him to repeat what he just said, and he did. Word for word, he did. I could tell this guy was a nutcase, and in hindsight I probably should have reported the incident. Instead, I just kind of laughed it off and walked away. Never saw him again, to my knowledge. Kinda doubt that he made a smooth transition into adulthood, though. There was a kid I knew in 2nd grade. He was wild. When we were in the same class together, the teacher would regularly have to call the assistance team, a group of teachers that would restrain unruly kids and were trained on how to do so. He would throw desks, chairs, scissors once if remember correctly. The following year, we weren't in the same classroom but it was a small school so you'd still hear about things. He tripped a very pregnant teacher causing her to go into labor. No idea how he didn't get expelled for that, but the final straw was when he found a rusty pocket knife on the playground during recess and stabbed a student sitting next to him in the stomach with it for no reason. Still wonder what happened to him. Oh, and he sucked his thumb regularly. College professor, guy just a little bit older than me, wrote a paper in which he shared a fantasy about beating the crap out of a younger female therapist for not listening to him about his problems. He was constantly distracting in class, cheated in every way imaginable, and just struck me as off. I repeatedly put in student of concern notices about him, because I really thought something was going to go wrong. Shortly after the class ended, he took his newborn kid and ran away to a different state. My cousin, currently in 1st grade, had a girl in his class throw a computer tower in their classroom and slapped and punched the teacher as she tried to gain control. To my knowledge, nothing ever happened to the girl because the teacher and the girl's mother are good friends. They don't want to ruin her time at school by reporting the incident. A buddy of mine teaches the special needs class in a high school. For him, it was the kid who he'd been told liked to throw things. That wasn't entirely uncommon for his class, but when he noticed the kid was wearing adult diapers, he went straight to the office to review the kid's file. His red flag sense was right. The kid liked to throw crap. My buddy went to office and has managed to keep the kid out of his class. That was last week. This week he's been told that the school is still trying to get the kid put in his class anyway. They make money for taking these kids. He's fighting it, but Lord knows which way it will land. I may have set off a red flag for teachers when I was in 3rd grade. I would always pull my pants all the way down to my ankles when I peed in the urinal, and obviously, would constantly get made fun of for it. Well, it got very tiring and hurtful, so one day when I dropped my drawers to pee, the boy that walked up in the urinal beside me, who pees side by side anyway, popped his mouth off and I just nonchalantly pivoted and pee all up and down his leg. The principal called my mom, and I was tactfully talked to at home about how it's good to stand up for yourself, but that wasn't an appropriate reaction. Then my dad took over and explained how I really needed to not get basically butt naked to pee standing up at a urinal. A student walked in the classroom and said, "It smells like Crystal M in here." I teach 6-year-olds. I was in charge of an after-school program for junior, high and high school students, 13-18 years old. One time I was waiting for a 13-year-old girl to get picked up with her friend, and this is the conversation I hear from across the room while they were messing with the whiteboard. Girl 1, draws swastika. Girl 2, "You can't do that, that's bad." Girl 1, "Why?" Girl 2, "I don't know, I just know bad." Girl 1, "It's okay, my dad has it tattooed on his chest." Me. There's a kid in this preschool class, aged 5, that says the most off the wall stuff. So far this school year, she has said that her dad is going to come to the school and kill kids and their families. That she has a doll that will come to this other little girl's house and cut her heart out, eat it and cut her legs off. And finally that her dad shoots kittens. At this point, I'm thinking of calling CPS or at least pushing the issue with the school district because there is no reasonable explanation as to why a 5-year-old would be saying these disturbing things. Not a teacher, but had a kid in the 2nd grade with me try to stab my eye out with a pencil. Multiple times. He was obsessed and had to be taken out of class and dealt with on several occasions. Never anyone else either, just me. His reasoning? I had done the same to him in his past life. The stoic, intense look on his face when he said that still gives me chills. I was stabbed in the butt cheek with a pencil. It had to be removed. The tearbled kid they sat across from me told them that I wouldn't eat his boogers he was trying to share with me 1st grade. I had a classmate who wanted to hurt the kids for fun. If there was blood, he would celebrate it, no matter if he was expelled. The worst, I had a student with claw marks over her eyes. Like legit looked like someone scratched her eyelid. The whole upper area right under her eyebrow was scarred and it was like too small to have been an animal. Me and a co-worker asked about it. She started to get defensive and once a kid starts stammering and making excuses, "You gotta make the call to CPS." I got fired for making the call. I apparently hurt the school standing in the neighborhood because I snitched, and the kid got removed from her family and sent to another state. Another kid had trouble staying up in class. Turned out his house was at the center of a coke bust later that year. Fun times. Not a teacher, but have been able to assist in programs and such through my volunteer work. One of my major things was that I would bring in owls from our local sanctuary that were unable to be in the wild and teach kids about them. For 99.9% of the kids this is an awesome experience and they love getting to see these beautiful creatures. One day I had our barn owl, Sitting Bull, who is blind in both eyes, out and was explaining how strong his beak and claws were when one kid asked, "So can I touch him? I don't think he'll hurt me cause he knows I'll hurt him if he does." First red flag. About 30 seconds later I got the second major one when I told him no, we do not allow that in any circumstance. He proceeded to stand up and walk over to one of the desks, smash his head off the side of it, and then, with the freaking crater in his head. I was freaking out entirely at this point and needed to put the owls away so they didn't freak. Say, well, I don't need to be here then. Take me to the hospital. This was 4 years ago. The kid was in 5th grade and I have no clue what's become of him. Grew up with a friend like this. If she didn't get straight A's or just didn't get what she wanted in a certain way, hitting head on desk or wall, it wasn't like she was totally pampered or spoiled as a child. No idea why she would flip out sometimes. She did eventually get help, but I am not entirely sure what was wrong. Haven't thought of her in a while. I hope she is happy and safe. My mom is a special education teacher, mostly kids with autism and learning disorders, middle school aged, but her program has gotten students who don't fit into regular classes, so they get dumped into her program. One of the students, about 6-7 years back, was super weird. He was mouthy, hated authority, and was a lot bigger than the other kids. He wrote "I'm gonna pay Miss Teacher" in bright red Sharpie on a paper he had to pass into another teacher. They called his parents into school to talk about it, and the student's mom started laughing about it. She said that her child had a weird sense of humor, but he meant no harm to anyone. She also had another student whose parents had him miss school on the 21st of December 2012 because the world could end, and they couldn't expect him to spend his final day at school. I subbed for this 6th grade teacher a lot. She had this student who seemed like a harmless, but obviously mentally and physically disabled kid. Whenever I saw him he was calm, drooled, and carried an iPad so he could semi-communicate. He didn't seem 100% there at any given time, but like I said, he seemed harmless. Halfway through the school year, the teacher I subbed for decided that I should probably know to steer clear of this kid if he gets any sort of mood other than calm. Like if he is upset that it's cloudy, I can't talk to him. He also had an adult that followed him everywhere. I assumed this guy was a para, people that help IEP kids, but no, he was a legit handler for this kid. It took me a while to dig this kid's backstory up, but apparently this kid has to be drugged to high heaven to just be at school. Hence the drooling and super passive behavior 99% of the time. Apparently he is ultra crazy aggressive, and if he gets into any bad mood it means his drugs are wearing off and he's a ticking time bomb. His meltdowns cause school lockdowns because of how violent he is towards himself and others. There is a literal design plan for this kid if he snaps. Hence the handler. I feel bad for the kid because of his drugged out life and the fact that he probably has some incurable rage issue or brain problem. But sweet Jesus, the kid terrifies me now that I know. I teach middle school math. We have a Saturday school once a month for students with failing grades to get extra help in whatever subject. One kid did not want to be there and he was placed in a conference room in the office so he didn't disturb the other kids. So this kid pulled out a tooth, an adult tooth. He pulled it out of his face. It was terrible. I was giving a spelling test to my 3rd graders and one student calmly got out her glue and poured it in her ear. You have been visited by the water papa. You will be blessed with sunny beach days, but only if you comment "swim safe, papa." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.